Hi, it's Matt again from Intro Car, talking to you again today about our next subject, something that's been on the forums recently on Facebook. People asking about how to split rear hubs. A lot of people put them in a press and try and break them that way, but you're never going to do that easily because there's not a great position on the hub to put in the press so that you can get a good pressure of force where you want it. This is something that Intracar has developed. It's a copy of the original Rolls-Royce Ram. So anyone who doesn't know exactly how you have to split a hub, the stub axle that goes through the rear hub has a drive shaft flange that sits on this taper. It sits there on a taper with a woodruff key, and this bolt is tightened down very tight, about 350 foot-pounds. You kind of have to swing on it with a pole. What that means is that the way the flange sits on the end of the shaft is very hard to get off. So the idea is you have this puller. You take this bit off. Hang on, probably should have done this first. Nearly there. This bolts onto the flange. You've got two different types of bolts depending on the type of flange you've got. So this bolts onto the flange, then you fit this adapter, as you saw me just take that off, and then this is the key bit. This is the ram. So this ram, I don't know if you can see that, Sykes Pickavant, good quality maker of rams. That screws in there. You screw it all the way down till it comes out the bottom, and then you wind up on this bit. Now that creates pressure in here, and this is a 12-ton ram. So you can see that. You can see that in there. Got it? So that's a 12-ton ram. So that is now you can put it in a 12-ton press and try and do it, but what you're not doing is you're not getting it on the parts that you need to, so it's much harder. I've had it in like a 20-ton press with heat and it's still not gone. So that is the correct tool to use. It's got a couple of adapters to go on the end of the ram to make it a good fit. Intracar has these for sale. We also hire it. This is one that's been used. It's a hired one. It's not expensive. We charge a big surcharge to ensure that we get it back, but it's probably cheaper than taking it somewhere to do it. The other thing I thought I'd mention is that when you do reassemble the hub, and I wanted to show you a bearing I had a bearing. If you are splitting the rear hub to change your rear discs, you might also just want to take a good look at the bearings. We stock these bearings, NSKs, race and roller as an assembly. That's the inner one. There's two different sizes, but because it's such a big job to split the hubs, and if you find that your bearings are worn out, then you have to do the whole job again. When you do assemble it, you always want to replace this lock nut. This goes in between the actual bearing, the bearing races, and you don't do that up tight. This is just to be done to take out the play, and then you pin it over on the slots. That's on the actual hub, not this. You can't see it on here. But that's the lock nut that sets the position of the play of the bearings. We do a replacement nut for the stub axle. When you do come to refit the drive shaft flange and you put a new nut on it, it's because it goes through such a high amount of torque, it's always worth replacing the nut. If you don't do this up fully tight, what happens is there's a woodruff key here. And you can see this is one that's been broken because someone's not done this nut up tight enough. So if you don't do that nut up to the correct torque, what happens is the flange, instead of turning the wheel and the hub, because this is where the wheel is, what happens is your drive shaft tries to turn it, but instead of turning the wheel like it should, the wheel stays still and the flange breaks that woodruff key and just spins. So you can see this is one where the woodruff key is broken. Got that? So that's where someone's not done that nut tight enough, and they've just spun the flange. So then obviously hub's got to come back off. You've got to find a second-hand stub axle and start again. So we also do the seals. You want to put new seals in if you're doing it, and always replace the O-ring at the bottom there. We've got those as well. I probably haven't covered everything. If there's anything you want to ask, then please feel free to comment below, and look forward to the next video.